Welcome, everyone. We are going to get underway here. Let me just minimize the Q&A. We'll get to the questions and comments later. It is open for anyone who wants to put up a comment there. Everybody can interact as much as possible. I want to start off by wishing everyone a happy Hanukkah. And I do sincerely hope that it is a happy Hanukkah for everyone, regardless of everything that's going on in the world. It's been a very, very difficult, almost a year, right? We can just say difficult 2020. And as we near the new year, we have a lot of hope for a better, brighter future. And that hope for a better future and that faith in a better future is really what Hanukkah is all about. I want to share something personal now, and I don't mean to be a downer. It's Hanukkah, and we're here to celebrate, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I know it's been a year that everyone has experienced some kind of suffering, some kind of loss throughout this year, whether they lost a person who was close to them or they lost a part of their identity, in the form of their job or their business. The world is hurting, and I personally, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, passed away last night. And I am currently out of Massachusetts to be with my mother, to be close to her. And this, obviously wasn't planned to be out of town, but it does, I can still be here with everyone because we plan to do this remotely. So my grandmother passed away, and one of my siblings remarked, "Oh, did Bubby just ruin Hanukkah?" And my mother was emphatic that no, like she didn't. She was all about the message of Hanukkah, and she would want us to be celebrating tonight. And she's celebrating definitely with us in heaven. And that brought to mind the first sermon that I ever delivered in my life. Okay, my grandmother prepped me for it, and I'll tell you the story. I was 8 years old. Okay, 8 years old. My grandmother was visiting for Passover, and one of the days she says, "Struli, come sit down. Let's study something." So she took out a book of talks of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and chose one of the talks that was on the theme of Passover. And she studied it with me. She said, "Repeat it back to me." And she said, "Well, you did a great job. You should stand up in synagogue tomorrow and deliver this to the congregation." So, my 8-year-old self was like, "Sure, yeah, why not?" Right? Next day, this entire synagogue is quiet because they've just announced to me, "Oh, Struli Baron is going to give a talk on one of the themes of Passover." And I'm 8 years old. I'm huddled behind the bima, okay, like crouching. And the entire synagogue is quiet. Everybody's waiting, like, what is going on? And my grandmother marched up to me. Now, my grandmother was born during World War II, where her family was refugees from the city of Leningrad on the run to a city called Samarkand. And she was on the run from there to Holland, and then to England, and then finally to the United States. Like a wartime baby, she grew up tough, no nonsense. She grabs me by the arm. She says, "Struli, everybody is waiting for you. You better get up there and do what you said you were going to do." So I turned around and I delivered the talk, and that was the first sermon that I ever gave. And my grandmother would remind me of that all the time. She's like, "I got you started. I taught you your first sermon." And so I think it's appropriate tonight, in her honor and her memory, to be sharing together with you and celebrating Hanukkah together. And the theme of that sermon, that first sermon that I ever gave, was the biblical account of the Exodus from Egypt, when the Jewish people reach the Sea of Reeds, and there's water before them and the Egyptian army behind them. They're high on their release from Egypt, and then they have all these high hopes for Mount Sinai eventually coming to the land of Israel. But right then, in that moment, there was despair. And the sages tell us that they split into 4 groups, and they were fighting between themselves, like, what should we do? Okay. And they all had great options, right? Some of them were spiritual. They said, let's pray. Some of them were, more militant. They said, let's fight with the Egyptians. You know, irrespective of the specific tactics, they splintered into four camps. They weren't talking to each other. And Moses tells the Jewish people, march forward, right? And the commentaries tell us there was one man, his name was Nachshon, who literally walked forward into the water, and you know it was coming all the way up, covered his neck until it reached his nose, right? And that now he's underwater literally. And at that moment, the miracle of the parting of the Red Sea happened, right? For those who are familiar with the biblical account, this might sound familiar. For those who aren't, I encourage you to look into that story, because there are lessons there for each and every one of us. And the talk that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave and that my grandmother imparted to me was, when you reach a crossroads, when you reach a place of despair, it's very easy to get caught in your head and trying to come up with all types of reasons or justifications or tactics. And a lot of times we distance ourselves from those who are closest to us in the pursuit of our path that we have chosen. But there really is only one way forward, and that is to go forward, to move on, to carry on, to keep moving in your stated direction. And in this case, all they had to do was take a step forward into the sea, and then the sea parted. That's where the miracles happen, is when we don't get caught up in everything happening all around us, and we keep doing the work that needs to be done. And that's the message of Hanukkah, right? When the Jewish people re-entered the temple after being victorious in battle, right? After, oppression under the Syrian Greeks, you can imagine what a high they were on, to have their temple back. And then their hopes are crushed, right? Because they want to bring light into the world. They want to kindle the menorah, and there's no oil to be found. And at this point, most people would despair. They'd say, we made it this far, right? Let's just go home and rest a little bit, right? But they didn't do that. They said, we have a mission, right? We didn't win the war for nothing. We won the war so that we can keep practicing our religion as we see fit, so we can do what we're told and try to bring light and warmth into the world. That's symbolized in the menorah, embodied by the menorah. And we need to light the menorah. So they find this flask of oil, right? It's only enough to last for one day, but they go ahead and light it, right? What is that called? That's called doing what you can, right? Instead of focusing on, well, it's only going to work for one day, and it's going to take 8 more days to find oil. No, they didn't make those calculations. They carried on. They took a step forward in the right direction, and that's where the miracles happen. So it was at the splitting of the Red Sea, and it was at the miracle of Hanukkah. And in today's day and age, people talk about COVID fatigue, right? People are tired. We thought we were getting better. We were reopening. Things were looking up, and now, numbers are on the rise and things are closing. And the miracle of Hanukkah, its relevance to us, like right now this year, is carry on, right? The light is just around the bend, right? If you just keep doing what you need to do, keeping those who are close to you close, reaching out to others who need help and trying to help them, trying to bring light and warmth into these dark times, miracles can happen, and maybe this Hanukkah, we'll have that miracle of hope and of healing. And on the macro level, the work that we seek to do, which is improving the world, repairing the world, making the world a more beautiful, inclusive, kind place, sometimes we can despair in that work as well. Sometimes the world just seems so dark. Like, how is my little flask of oil really going to make a difference, right? How is my kind action towards another person going to do it, right? There's so much darkness out there. And the miracle of Hanukkah tells us you don't have to do it all. You just have to do what you can. And then God makes miracles happen. So thank you all for joining me. I hope it'll be a very wonderful celebration. We'll hear from our town administrator, Mr. Steve Mayo, We'll hear from Ann Santos and Rabbi Greg Hirsch, and then we'll move on to a pre-recorded section of the program with various guests, a rapper, we have Rabbi Yossi Jacobson, former Ambassador Ron Dermer, various guests sharing small, short thoughts on Hanukkah, a musical element of it, some food elements of it, but that'll all be later. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my esteemed colleague, Rabbi Greg Hirsch, to share a few words.
Thank you, Rabbi Cerulli, and Baruch Dayan HaEmet. I'm sorry for your loss. May your grandma's memory be for a blessing. And actually, my spiel here goes along similar themes. Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of lights, falls during the darkest time of the year. Days are short and the weather is cold. This year, the world seems even darker than usual. COVID cases and deaths are on the rise. Tens of millions of our fellow Americans face eviction and homelessness, hunger, and no access to healthcare, all while the climate continues to degrade. Sometimes it can feel like there's no hope for us. But we can draw inspiration from our religious traditions, which offer glimmers of light in the midst of darkness. When the odds seem too great for us to overcome, when it feels like we're too small to accomplish all that is necessary, let us remember the story of Hanukkah, the bravery of Judah Maccabee and his small band of warriors. Despite the Syrian Greek army being much larger and more powerful than they, the Maccabees banded together and eventually kicked the Greeks out of Israel and recovered the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. When they got to the temple, there was only enough oil to light the menorah for one night, but miraculously, it burned for 8. It'd be as if your cell phone only had 5% battery and lasted a week. Of course, it took great bravery to take on a much larger, better armed Greek force, but they were nonetheless successful. While we usually focus on the bravery of the Maccabees in battles, it also took enormous bravery to light that menorah with only 1 jar of oil. When they used it up, they didn't know what to expect. They couldn't have known that it would miraculously last for 8 days, enough time to process more oil. But they lit it anyway, because it was better to light the menorah once than to sit in darkness. And when they lit it, that menorah stayed lit not just for 8 days, but for 200 years, until the Romans invaded Jerusalem and extinguished the flame once again in the year 70. When the Romans destroyed the Second Temple, it seemed as if that holy light might be extinguished forever. But even when it feels like hope is lost and there's no way forward, we can still seek out glimmers of light. I'll close with a story from the Zohar, the Book of Radiance, the textbook of the deepest secrets of Judaism's holy teachings. This story takes place soon after the destruction of the Second Temple. It goes like this. One night, late at night, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son, Rabbi Eliezer, were standing on a mountain. It was so dark. Suddenly, one ray of light came, one holy ray of the dawning sun. The ray of light lasted only 1 second, then it was dark again. But then another ray came, and it was just a little bit less dark. And slowly, God's great light, the sun, came to shine on the whole world. Now imagine all of us are standing on that holy mountain with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said to his son, Eliezer, my son, do you see? Do you see? This is the way that the redemption of the world, the redemption of Israel, the rebuilding of Jerusalem will happen. One ray of light, and another ray of light, and another ray of light, until the whole world will be filled with joy and with light. So as we kindle the Hanukkah lights this year, may that light infuse our souls, and may each of us bring more light into a dark world.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Greg. Let's pass over the mic to the. I see, Anne. You've unmuted yourself. So what's
Sure.
your official title is City Council.
I'm chair of the Wakefield Town Council.
Chair of the Wakefield Town Council. Thank
Yes.
you very much, Anne Santos.
Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be a part of this beautiful celebration, and I can't imagine a more poignant way to celebrate Hanukkah is to acknowledge that we are in darkness, not simply just because of the darkness outside our windows, but certainly living with COVID and living with everything that it's brought. And I also extend my love and sympathies to you, Rabbi Shmuley, for losing your grandmother. But the lessons of Hanukkah are so beautiful to grasp the idea that one light and one small light can keep us going, and that we should never forget that, and that it starts with one light. It can start with one person. And I think that a lesson that's been going on for 2,100 years is even more powerful during these days. So I wish everyone a joyous Hanukkah, and to recognize that anyone can be that small light that keeps us all going. Thank you so much for having me join your celebration.
Thank you for being here and being a part of it. And without further ado, Mr. Steve Mayo.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, rabbis. I am so honored to be here as well, and thrilled that we can remotely be part of our hosting again for this wonderful ceremony. And remember a few years ago when Marianne Cohen approached me, and I thought it was a great idea. Of course, we'd love to be part of the celebration, and it has been a great celebration every year. I don't think I've got a latke yet, Marianne, but we're gonna work on that. I'm not getting one tonight either, but we'll work on that. I really enjoyed your talk in the beginning, Rabbi, and I think that we are staying the course. We are doing what we can, and hopefully we're doing things right. And I think if we do that, not only in the town of Wakefield, but in our surrounding communities in the world, we all do that little part, miracles will happen. So again, I think that's a great message as we do enter some dark days, and the extra lights at our town common are certainly going to add to the extra lights in the world that we're all trying to pull together. So I look forward to having this ceremony again next year in person. Look forward to getting my latke, and happy Hanukkah and best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, and happy Hanukkah. Thanks for being a part of this every year and being so supportive of it. You mentioned Marianne Cohen, and I want to give a shout out to Marianne. She's watching from home today for, kind of being the one that pulls this all together every single year. I know that I can pick up the phone at the beginning of, Hanukkah season, and she's always jumps to help and to contact everyone and make sure that we have volunteers to light the menorah. Truly a wonderful asset to our community and the entire Wakefield community. And like Mr. Mayo mentioned, the menorah will be lit on the Wakefield Commons every night of Hanukkah, obviously without any gathering or celebration. That's important to note. You are welcome, if you would like, if you're walking on your own or with your family, to, approach the menorah for a photo. And like we've done in the past, leave a sticky note with your ray of light that you're going to bring this Hanukkah. Your ray of light can be in the form of a resolution or a thought or a meditation or a prayer. A resolution to help someone in need, to reach out to someone who can use some love and light in their life, and leave that there. I love coming back every year to pick up the menorah at the end of Hanukkah and seeing it covered in so many beautiful notes and prayers. It's the light at the end of Hanukkah, after all is said and done. So without further ado, we are going to light our honorary Wakefield menorah for this year. And we'll take the shamash. And Rabbi Greg, mute yourself and sing along with me so I don't have to go solo.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see how this works on Zoom.
Okay. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem b'hazeman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. I hope everyone at home is gathered around with their families, around the lights, lighting their menorah together with us. If anyone needs a menorah, needs candles for their menorah, please feel free to reach out. Rabbi Sruli, Rabbi, S as in Sam, Ruli, at nsjewish.com. And we'll make sure to get you a menorah and a Hanukkah kit. Let's place this on the side for just a moment. And we will, let's sing the Maos Sur. It's a Hanukkah favorite. Maos Sur Yeshuati Lechana Elishabeach Tikon Tefilati Visham Toda Nizabeach Lies Tachin Matbeach Mitzor Hamna Beach Az Egmor B'Shir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach Az Egmor B'Shir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach. Alrighty. Thank you all very much for joining us. Mr. Steve Mayo, Rabbi Greg Hirsch, and Santos, thank you for being here. All of our participants, I see 37 unique users, which every one of those is, I imagine more than one person around the computer. It's beautiful to see. I feel connected on a soul level with each and every one of you. I'm going to play our pre-recorded part of the program with our musical guests and various inspirational thoughts. Feel free to enjoy as much of it as you have time for. If you need to hop off at some point during that, have a happy Hanukkah and enjoy the rest of your week. Make sure to light up a candle every night at sundown. Just when it gets dark, that's when we start bringing the light. So happy Hanukkah.
Days, 8 nights, we call it 8 plays, 8 lights. We light a flame for this miracle. Hey, we light a flame for this miracle.
Hi, my name is Nissim Black, and I was born in Seattle, Washington. I'm a professional rapper, and I love doing what I do. Rap is the tool that I use and the medium that I use to be able to reach people in an amazing way and to be able to share God's love in the world. I was raised in a completely different life than what I'm living now. As an inner city kid, growing up in the urban neighborhoods, got into gang violence and drugs very early on, and had that wonderful opportunity to change my life. I converted to Judaism at the age of 26. Me and my wife, we had 2 children at the time. Thank God, she was blessed as hell with 6. We picked up and left the railroad to Eretz Israel. Now live outside of Jerusalem. One of the things that inspired me the most about Judaism was the honesty of the story. If you read throughout the Hebrew scriptures, the beautiful, beautiful story and relationship between God and the Jewish people, this constant rising and falling of the people, and this constant love that Hashem has for the Jewish people, and the inseparable relationship that there is between Hashem, the Jewish people, and the land of Israel. So that very much so inspired me to want to be a part of that relationship, to take hold of it, and to immerse myself in it.
And so we make a flame for this miracle.
Hanukkah could not be connected to Hanukkah. I feel so connected. I feel like this is my Chag. Hanukkah really represents being in the darkest and the lowest and the most remote places.
I'm standing here, but I can't hold myself. I know I need the help of someone else. I am my brother's keeper. I can use my hand.
What connects me most to Hanukkah, and what probably connects all of us, is the wonderful mandate to light the menorah, to light the Chanukiah out and in the open, in front of everyone. It's like David HaMelech, who says to Hashem, I will profess your greatness and your kingship before all the kings of the earth. And we are doing this every Hanukkah. We're showing the light and the miracle and the great wonders of what God has done for us, the Jewish people, in front of the whole entire world. And it's on display for everyone to see. That is the power of Hanukkah. That with each and every single day that we light the Chanukiah, that we add light, we add more light. It only shows that this flame, which can ignite another flame, without really extinguishing the original flame, it's giving of ourselves, and the more chesed and the more kindness that we do with each and every day, it will not take away from us, God forbid, but it's only going to give more. And the more light that we spread, the more and more we're able to illuminate the whole entire world. This is Hanukkah, and this is why I love it so much.
Whenever we down, he can lift us up. Ain't a difficulty, too difficult for us. If only we would trust and keep our heads up. The sky we can touch, yeah. But I feel so out of myself. I feel like I lost my control. I feel so out of myself. I feel like I lost my way home, yeah. But when it's dark out, I can't see, yeah. So can you make a light for me? It's hard. From Egypt to Babylon, the Holocaust, Inquisition would pivot us to the pogroms. Yeah, from the Greeks and now in Rome. Yeah, but we fight back to light that fire. They got a problem cause this neshama won't expire. We move it on. We show the whole entire world no fear in us. And so we make a flame for this miracle. So we make it 8 days, 8 nights, and you call it 8 flames, 8 nights. We light a flame for this miracle. Hey, we light a flame for this miracle. So we make it 8 days, 8 nights, and you can call it 8 flames, 8 nights. And we light a flame for this miracle. Hey, we light a flame for this miracle. I'm standing here, but I can't hold myself. I know I need the help of someone else. I am my brother's keeper. I can use my hand to be my brother's keeper. We gon' fly away. Not in a million years. Get 6 million tears. Be ignored still. These are arms of steel. King David's shield. Operation Moses. Ethiopian Trojan. He gave the mighty to the weak and the many to the few. In a minute, it was through. Even in the dark, we light it through. So now I give my light to you, but we fight back to light that fire. They got a problem because this neshama won't expire. We moving on. We show the whole entire world no fear in us. So we make a flame for this miracle. Hey. So we make it 8 days, 8 nights. You can call it 8 flames, 8 lights. We light a flame for this miracle. Hey, we light a flame for this miracle. So we make it 8 days, 8 nights. And you can call it 8. on. 8 days, 8 nights, 8 flames, 8 lights for this miracle. Hey, so we light a flame for this miracle. So we make it 8 days, 8 nights, 8 flames, 8 lights for this miracle. We light a flame for this miracle. Hope everybody's enjoying the Hanukkah so far.
My name is Ron Dermer, and for over 7 years, I've been privileged to serve as Israel's ambassador to the United States. I'm honored to speak to Jewish communities across the world who this year are celebrating Hanukkah with Chabad. Now, some people say that all Jewish holidays are the same, that all our holidays can be summed up in 3 short sentences. They tried to kill us, they failed, let's eat. But the truth is that each Jewish holiday not only has unique foods and customs, but also commemorates a unique national experience. On Passover, we celebrate our freedom from slavery in Egypt. On Purim, we celebrate our survival from a plot in Persia to annihilate us. On Sukkot, we remember our simple spiritual lives in the desert. On Shavuot, we remember receiving our people's greatest treasure, the Torah. Well, what about Hanukkah? On Hanukkah, we celebrate Jewish identity. We remember how a small and courageous band of Maccabees took on a powerful empire, not to save their lives or to end their bondage, but to live according to their faith, laws, and traditions. In fact, the Maccabees risked their lives to save their identity. It is precisely because Hanukkah is a celebration of Jewish identity that it is the most public of Jewish holidays. We can have a Seder in the privacy of our homes. We can build our sukkahs in an inner courtyard. But on Hanukkah, we must light the menorah in a place where our neighbors, Jews and non-Jews alike, can see. On Hanukkah, we essentially do what the Maccabees themselves did some 2,200 years ago. We take pride in our faith and in our heritage. We show the world that we are proud Jews. Beyond Jewish identity, on Hanukkah, we also celebrate Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. In fact, Hanukkah is the only Jewish holiday that commemorates an event that took place in the land of Israel. I realized that for the first time when I played a game of dreidel soon after I moved to Israel. I spun it, and it landed on pay. I thought I got a bum dreidel because in America, all the dreidels have a shin, not a pay. And they stand for, in America, Nes Gadol Hayam Sham. A great miracle happened there. But in Israel, all the dreidels have a pay because they stand for Nes Gadol Hayam Po. A great miracle was here in the land of Israel. On Hanukkah, we celebrate the miracle of the restoration of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. Now, the Jewish people, ladies and gentlemen, are a 4,000-year-old people, but we have been a sovereign people for less than a quarter of that time. Our first period of sovereignty began when Joshua crossed the Jordan over 3,000 years ago. It ended some 7 centuries later when Babylonian ruler Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple, the first temple in Jerusalem. Hundreds of years passed before our second period of sovereignty began with the miraculous victory of the Hashmonaim, the Maccabees. But that was short-lived. And about a century later, the Jewish state effectively became a vassal of Rome. The Jews later rebelled, but were ultimately defeated. The second temple was destroyed. A 2,000-year exile began. That is, until 1948, when a great transformation occurred in the life of the Jewish people with the rebirth of the one and only Jewish state. We moved from powerlessness to power, from statelessness to sovereignty, from having to beg others to defend us to being able to defend ourselves. like the Maccabees of old. We must never forget that 100 generations of Jews dreamed to have the privilege to live at a time when there would be a sovereign Jewish state. And only 3 generations of Jews have had the privilege of living that dream. With that privilege comes a great responsibility to secure that dream for future generations. That is why on Hanukkah, we should all light the menorah with pride. Pride in being able to celebrate the same heritage that the Maccabees safeguarded against impossible odds so long ago. And pride in having the privilege to live at a time when there is a sovereign Jewish state. A state whose emblem is the menorah and whose light burns bright for all the world to see. Chag Sameach.
Hi, my name is Tamir Goodman. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I was blessed to play Division I basketball on a full athletic scholarship and professional basketball without playing on Shabbat. Today, I live in Jerusalem with my wife and 5 kids, and I have a sports consulting company that focuses on product development, coaching, and scouting for basketball players around the world. After many years of hard work and training and pushing myself till tears every day, trying to be the best Jewish basketball player that I could be, at the age of 17, I was ranked the 25th best high school basketball player in all of America. I started getting a lot of scholarship offers. I originally committed to the University of Maryland, but then I realized that if I wanted to stay and play there, I'd have to play on Shabbat. So I actually went to play for a different team, Towson University. And Towson University managed to change the entire schedule for me so that I could play Division I basketball without playing on Shabbat. After a month of intense training on campus, the first game of the season finally started, and then the second game, and then the third game. Third game was in Philadelphia, and we traveled there the day before the game. And late at night before the game, we heard a knock on the door. My roommate and I, Mohammed, was a Muslim basketball player. And I went to open up the door, and I was completely shocked to see it was our head coach. Feeling very nervous, I went into the hallway, and coach just said, "Look, I really want you to be ready to play tomorrow." And I said, "Coach, I try to always be ready to play. What's going on? What's special?" He said, "Well, we're playing against Villanova. They're one of the best teams in the whole country. The game is going to be on ESPN. Millions of people are going to be watching the game. And Tamir, you're starting." And I felt so nervous because my whole life I've been watching Villanova. And now, am I really good enough to play against them, especially when their point guard is a senior and I'm just a freshman? I came back into the room and I closed the door and I was frozen. I was so scared. I couldn't sleep the whole night. The next day, we got to Villanova, 2 hours before the game. Usually there's no crowd there. It's just the players warming up. And we were warming up, but I just couldn't get my confidence going. I was so nervous. I couldn't dribble well. I couldn't make my shots. I was so scared that I wouldn't be able to play on this level on ESPN in front of all these people. After a little bit of time in the warm-ups, I looked up in the crowd and I was completely shocked to see there was a Jewish lady there and a young Jewish boy, her son, with a kippah on his head. And I locked eyes with them and I stopped warming up for a minute. And I was staring at them and I noticed that the young boy took a poster board out of his bag and he lifted up the poster board and he started writing in Hebrew letters at Villanova, Bruchim Habayim LeTamir Goodman. He wrote that in Hebrew letters, "Welcome to Tamir Goodman." And down from the floor, I just thought to myself, wow, who ever saw Hebrew letters in this world famous arena? This is unbelievable. And when I saw those letters, I just didn't feel nervous anymore. It made me feel right at home. I ended up having a very good game. I had 13 points and 6 assists as a freshman. And the coach came over to me after the game and he said, "Tamir, I just want to let you know that you won the starting spot as a freshman for the rest of the season." And oftentimes people ask me, they say, "Tamir, how were you a starter as a freshman in Division I basketball?" And I always say to them, it wasn't me. It was the young Jewish boy that wrote the Hebrew letters. It was the Hebrew letters that made me feel right at home, and I wasn't nervous anymore. I think this story has an incredible message for us and Hanukkah, especially this year. because this year we don't have our confidence going. We don't feel like ourselves. Because of the coronavirus, all of our confidence has been taken away from us. But this story reminds me, and hopefully it'll remind you, just take the first step. Get dressed, put on your uniform, start warming up, and eventually Hashem will send you the blessings that you need to be successful. I wasn't confident. I didn't think I was going to be able to play well in that game, but I put my uniform on, I went out to warm-ups, and Hashem sent those angels that showed me the Hebrew letters that gave me all the confidence that I needed to move forward and have a great game. So my blessing to you this Hanukkah is just take the first step. There's so much power in adding just one light, because when we add just one light, Hashem will take care of the rest for us. Happy Hanukkah from Jerusalem, and thank you to Chabad for the opportunity.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to make a beautiful cheese board with you today in honor of Hanukkah. Hey everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Hani Applebaum, and I'm a kosher food blogger, food photographer, and cookbook author here in Brooklyn, New York. This is my cookbook, Millennial Kosher, and I'm all about modernizing traditional Jewish food in a fun and exciting way. I grew up right around the corner here in Brooklyn, on the block of 770 Eastern Parkway, the headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch movement, and just had the most beautiful upbringing, celebrating our traditions and Judaism in such a special way. And I'm a mom of 5, and one of the things that is so important to me is just bringing and gathering my family around the table to celebrate our heritage and traditions through food. Obviously, Hanukkah and the holidays, that's the best way to do it. Have your potato latkes and your Hanukkah donuts, but more importantly, the Hanukkah menorah. I was actually born on the 5th night of Hanukkah, so it's really special to me to gather my family around the menorah and light it. But I don't do that in my kitchen. I bring it to the window, because at the window is where you can actually spread the light and show that I'm a proud Jew and spread the light of Judaism to the world. And really, that's what I'm so passionate about in what I do. I mean, I could be just cooking for my family in my kitchen, but I want to spread that to everyone else, because it's so important to me that everyone gather their families around the table to celebrate our heritage and our traditions. And really, that's what the redemption mindset is all about. Not keeping it to ourselves, but spreading it out to the world. So with that, I would love to get started with you to make a beautiful cheese board. A cheese board is that snacking, grazing board where you gather around with everybody and sit around the table and everybody kind of snacks together. So it's really that perfect kind of appetizer for any kind of holiday meal. One of the heroines of the story of Hanukkah is Yehudit, who was known for luring the Greek general with wine and cheese. So we're going to make a red wine fig jam and a beautiful cheese board to celebrate. So let's get started. Okay, we're gonna get started making our red wine fig jam. So just use a small saucepan here. I have 8 ounces of dried mission figs that are roughly chopped. You wanna remove all the stems. 1 cup of dry red wine. Goes really nicely with the cheese. Now we're gonna peel a couple of strips of orange zest. You can use lemon zest, you can use grapefruit zest if you like. And my trick is I take a couple of cloves and I pierce it right in there. This way, they're not floating around your pot and you have to look for them. I'm gonna add a cinnamon stick in there and also some star anise. The figs are quite sweet in and of themselves, so I just add a little drizzle of honey. You can add any kind of sweetener you like, maple syrup, brown sugar, all work well. Okay, we're gonna give that a little stir and let that simmer for about 20 minutes until most of the liquid is absorbed. And then if you want, you can blend it with a food processor to make it a little bit more jammy, or you can have it be a little bit more chunky. It's up to you. Okay, we got our jam going, and now we're gonna start with the cheese. There's actually a kind of a technique to building the perfect cheese board, and that is using a different assortment of cheeses. So the rule is something old, something new, something goat, and something blue. So let's look at what we have. Something old would be like an aged cheese, such as Parmesan, cheddar, Gouda. Something new would be a fresh cheese like ricotta, fresh mozzarella, or feta, which is what we're using. Something goat would be a goat cheese, which we have right here. And something blue would be like a blue cheese, except I usually find that most people don't like real blue cheese. So what I like to use is Camembert or Brie, which have a moldy rind. So it's kind of like a moldy cheese, but not that moldy. First, I want to show you what I do with my goat cheese because it's really fun. You can roll it in chopped nuts, dried fruit, fresh herbs, but I like to roll it in everything bagel spice. How fun is that? And I'm just going to kind of roll it, pressing down on the spices to adhere to the cheese. I also like to do different shapes and different colors. So we have, the yellow cheddar, and the Parmesan is a nice triangle. So this just gives nice visual element to the board as well. And it's also really nice to slice into your cheese. Just makes it more inviting. Nobody wants to be the first person to slice into it. So for the feta, it's a little bit more moist. I put it on a dish, and I want to drizzle some good quality olive oil over that. If you want to put some fresh herbs, you can do that. A little bit of lemon zest, also nice. But what we'll do, we will add a little bit of olives to that. So that's another thing about building a board, is thinking about the different flavors. So you want something sweet, something salty, something sour, something bitter, just to hit all the notes on the palate. Our cheese is in. We're gonna put out some fruits, some crackers. I have some beautiful vine tomatoes over here. Grapes. Grapes are always nice on a cheese board. Okay, we have some dried dates here, medjool dates. I have some beautiful oranges. Love honeycomb with cheese. So, so amazing. So I'm gonna stick that right on here. And we have our red wine fig jam that we made. I actually pulse this in the food processor, so it's nice and jammy, as you can see. You want to go rustic with this, nothing too perfect, just kind of let everything flow. Let's get some pickles on here. I love these cornichons, really crunchy, nice texture. That's a really perfect on a board as well. I have some dried apricots. Kind of want to fill in all the spaces and really have it nice and full. And some pecans. Juice. We have some beautiful blackberries. And of course, crackers. Can't forget the crackers. Look around your board, fill in any gaps that you might have. Okay, and don't forget your cheese servers. So just stick them on the board so everybody can dig in and serve. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen in Brooklyn today. I hope you enjoyed building a cheese board with me, and I hope you'll make one for your family too. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
Und das wird noch unterstrichen, wie gesagt, in der Tag von Chanukka. Als zugekommen der Mitzvah von Eres Chanukka, was Mitzvah ist doch, als machen richtig und machen richtig al besser, besser mit Bachutz in ein Leben, aber das macht richtig sei bei sich in Huis, in Besser. Und das macht richtig ehrbar gut, was a cheshach chasse Ores, a viele in der Zeit von Finsterkeit von Golus und in der Welt, macht a Jid richtig, durch Jüdischkeit, durch ner Mitzvah vetero ist auch die Lichtigkeit, darf man nicht haben, mehr keine Mittel. Durch Lichtigkeit und viel na lichtigen Leben, da ist mir Menorah, der Finsterkeit und der alle nicht gewünschene Sachen, was sie seine verbunden mit dem Golus und mit dem Jetzer, und er bringt darauf der lichtige Gejule. Und eine zweite Ablehnung, was er nicht Chanukka geben, jeder in Zivis Hashem und den ganzen Zivis Hashem, als beschaß mit viel durch den nebischen Schliches und mit aktiv und mit tut den Zivis Hashem, wie viel mit darf man sich damit nicht begnügen. Und sie darf sein der Meilin Bakedisch. Darf machen noch mehr Lichtigkeit und noch mehr Klore, die Lichtigkeit von Teilu Mitzviseho, wie man sieht das in der Mitzvah von Zinden, Neres Chanukah, als Heintoten gezunden zwei Lichtler. Afalpi, Chotscha viele, mit ein Tag früher, hat man die Kaim gewähnt, der Mitzvah in der Fuß der Moos, mit der Lichtigkeit, mit dem Lichtl, mit der Lichtigkeit von ein Lichtl, sagt der Rebestellung, geht Keach, und sagt dann jeder von Zivis Hashem, und jeder Iden, als jeder Tag soll zugeben noch mehr Lichtigkeit. Auf der Lichtigkeit von mit der Tag früher und beschaß halt in wachsen, ist der Zoll von seinen Tag, ist auch noch mehr sicher, als darf wachsen in sein Ton in verspreiten Lichtigkeit und das alles wird noch mehr zuheilen, als Lochem Leves zieht, als der Eberste wird den Gichen beweisen, jedem von euch und jedem von uns und dem ganzen jüdischen Volk, den Leves zieht und mit Praven der Chanukas Beis HaMikdash Ashlishi.
The first time today. I hope it will be a good beginning. Thank you very much. Really strange. It was a good beginning and we go from strength to strength. That you will honor the wedding from Hanukkah, that every day you must add something. The best day of the thing clean, a clean blessing, and everything else. Each day after that, immediately you are adding an additional candle. That will be for all the year around. Thank you very much. We'll give to charity for your mother. That the God Almighty bless her and give her happy.
סימרן שלום, יושב ראש חברת החשמל בישראל. נבוא את כל העניינים, בלי הסעיר המסחירו במעמד מהירות. יור, עכשיו היינו בחנוכה, חג ההורים. כן, חג ההורים בחנוכה. הייתי צריך להוסיף מיין ליין. ואחר כך 2 ימים, אלא מיום ליום. זה בשביל השפה. כי אין לו כסף, אבל תהיה דבר הראשון כבר מזומן. ברכה והצלחה.
My name is Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, Yosef Yitzchak Jacobson. I grew up in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, at the feet of the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory. Today, I live with my family in Rockland County in Muncie, New York. I've had the privilege over the years to travel to communities across the globe and share some of the light I was privileged to absorb from the Rebbe. I still recall that Shabbat afternoon. It was Hanukkah, 1991. I was a yeshiva student. It was 1:30 p.m. The Rebbe came down to the main sanctuary, 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, and he began his weekly fabring and his public address and gathering to the thousands of Hasidim and disciples that were gathered. But I still recall the opening of that address, Hanukkah 91, because it was so rare. And the Rebbe said, when somebody is passionate about something, he or she will find that passion everywhere. Any person they meet, any circumstances they encounter, any experience they have will somehow trigger that passion. They will find conscious or unconscious associations because this is what their mind is immersed in. They will find this passion everywhere and anywhere, and the Rebbe said, for us, the Jewish people, our deepest passion is our yearning for Mashiach, our craving for redemption. We yearn for a world that is filled with divine infinite consciousness, where humanity is one, where each and every single one of us has the ability to transcend our toxicity and be aligned with our divine infinite core of love and light. And when Hanukkah comes, the association is immediately there. We're yearning for a world that's filled with divine, spiritual light and love. How do I tune into that consciousness, the Rebbe said? He said, look what happens when you kindle a flame. He says, with most material things in our world, it's a zero-sum game. If I give you $100, I don't have those $100. If I give you shares in my business, those shares are now yours and not mine. But if I have a flame and I use that flame to ignite another flame, nothing of my light is diminished. On the contrary, my light has just increased. There are two ways in which we can operate on a daily basis. One is a more restrictive form of consciousness, where I believe there are only limited assets and we're all competing. I walk around with a restricted state of consciousness, being very cautious about what I'm going to share and what I'm going to get. I have these walls of insecurity and fear that I feel I must always carry with me in order to protect my fragile ego. But the Rebbe said Hanukkah tries to teach us another way of living. Instead of looking to the world for validation and for love, you become the source of light. I must challenge myself and ask myself the question, can I at every single moment become a source of love, a source of light, a source of hope, a source of healing to everybody around me? When people see me, when people see you in the street, in the store, wherever it is, in the office, they know immediately this is a flame from which I can kindle my flame. Because when I and you become that person, not only does our light not get diminished, on the contrary, we receive more light and more love as we flood the world with love.
Shalom. My name is Rabbi Yitzchak Muli, and welcome to my studio. I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia, and now I live and work in Hillside, New Jersey. I'm also known as the Pop Art Rabbi, and wonderfully, I carry these two titles of rabbi and artist. You know, one thing I've learned along my journey as an artist is that there are three basic elements, three basic ingredients to every piece of creativity, every piece of expression. Step one is what you say, the subject matter of any form of expression. And really that's a reflection of yourself, a reflection of your soul, a reflection of your circumstance, a reflection of your upbringing, the things that really matter to you most, that you choose and want to share with others. The next step is how you say it, how you choose to convey these ideas. There's music, there's dance, there's poetry, there's canvas and paints, and many other things. And then there's a third element of how you share it with the world. Once it's done, once it's complete, now what do you do? The incredible lesson that we learned from Hanukkah and from the Menorah is to look at things from a different perspective. Because the beautiful message of the Menorah, the unique idea of the mitzvah of Menorah is that we take the menorah and we light it in the window. We light it outside. It's the one mitzvah where the Torah tells us how to go about it. We're not showy people. We're people of the book. We're quiet about our mitzvot. It's not about publicizing. But the mitzvah of Hanukkah is to do it outside. Why? Is light over darkness. It's to shine the light, the energy of the menorah out to the outside. And really that third element of creativity, of what you do with it. Now that you've had something, how do you share it with others? How do you share it with the world? Really changes, for me at least, has changed the way I look at creativity, the way I look at my process. And that the end result of sharing it with others defines step 1 and 2. And this idea really is the idea of Geula, the idea of redemption. Is that in redemption, in Geula, everything that we have is still there, except that it's revealed. The world is revealed in its purity, in its essence. That's the idea of creativity. The idea of creativity isn't to create for yourself, to do for yourself, but it's really to share. It's to share with others. And that's my duty, that's my responsibility, that's my opportunity. That's our opportunity, is to take the gifts that we have, to take the abilities that we have, to take the creativity we have, to take the expressions. So it's what we say and how we say it, and we're all unique. But it's about sharing it with the world. It's about taking the Geula mindset. The work itself is not complete until it's shared with others, until it impacts others, until it creates an opportunity for others to get involved, to others to engage. Because together, we can make the world complete. Happy Hanukkah. My name is Beryl Solomon, and I am 32 years old. I live in Montreal, and I'm a Baal Tshuva. That means that I was not born into a religious home. And I have an incredible Hanukkah story that I want to share with you and everybody watching. A Hanukkah story that changed my life, and that changed my children's lives, and my children's children's lives. And it all started with the menorah. It happened when I was right around my age of bar mitzvah, that I was on a cruise ship with my family. And it was Hanukkah, the first night of Hanukkah. And we get off of the cruise ship and we go into an island. And as we're getting off the boat to go on our adventure, a young man, not much older than my eldest sister at the time, comes up to my father and says, "Happy Hanukkah, sir. Are you Jewish by any chance?" My father said, "Yes." He said, "I want you to have this Hanukkah menorah." And my father said, "Wow, that's so nice." My father asked him, "How much do you want for it?" And the young child said to my father, "You don't have to pay me. All I want from you, sir, is that you promise that you will light it tonight and every other night for Hanukkah." My father took the menorah, he was touched, and we went about our business at the island, and we came back at the end of the day, and he stuck it in his suitcase. And as we're sitting around at the dinner table that night, for anybody that's ever been in a cruise, you know there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tables on every deck. And we're sitting at our table, and my little sister reminds my father, she says, "Dad, it's the first night of Hanukkah tonight." And my father says, "Wow, I remember, we got a menorah, go get it." And I went with my sister to go get the menorah. We brought it to our table. We were very scared to light it because on a cruise ship, you're not really allowed to light. But we did it anyways. And we put together any blessing that we knew. We remembered any song that we could remember, and we lit the menorah. And something amazing happened. Within a few minutes, we saw on the top deck that somebody else had also lit the menorah on their table. And then within a few minutes, we see another table right next to us light their menorah. And then again, and again, and again, another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and people kept on lighting the menorahs.
until it seemed that the entire cruise ship deck was completely lit with menorahs. Jewish people that were hiding until this moment all revealed themselves with the flame of Hanukkah. And my family was so touched. We felt like we lit up the darkness. And that is the magic of what Hanukkah is about. The magic of a candle is when you light another candle with your candle, not only does your candle not get diminished, but you could illuminate an infinite amount of candles. And that one moment left such a profound impact on me. Today, thank God, I'm married to a beautiful wife. I have 3 beautiful children. And it all started with a little bit of light on Hanukkah. And I try to take that light into everything I do. I'm a businessman first and foremost, and I try to infuse that into my business. I try to touch every customer with a little bit of light. Jewish or not, we have a mission into this world. But it all started with the magic and the light of Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. My name is Aviva Jablon. I'm from Westlake Village, California. I'm a proud child of Sea Kids Brigade Savos Hashem. I've always dreamed of a perfect world where there's only good. Eva, you want to come play Dreidel with me? I don't know. Please, please, pretty please. You're fine. Hey, I just realized that my dream of a perfect world can actually happen. I just did it. Even though when I wasn't in the mood of playing, I still went out of my way for others. These little acts of kindnesses are what creates a perfect world. A Moshiach world. Yay, I got a gimel. Yay. It's just like a menorah. Just like we add 1 more candles each night of Hanukkah, we need to keep adding our acts of kindnesses and goodness. I just realized the power and potential I have by helping others, learning Torah, and doing mitzvot. I am turning my world into a Moshiach world. Oh, I got a shin. As a child of Savos Hashem, I'm part of a global network of thousands of Jewish children. We're trying to make this world a Moshiach world. When I know that I'm not alone, it makes it so much easier and brings Moshiach faster. When the whole world will be the perfect world that I've always dreamed of.
This Hanukkah, let's go beyond the flame.
Let's go beyond the flame.
This Hanukkah,
let's go beyond the flame.
And unleash our unlimited potential.
Light up the world with goodness.
And constantly grow.
This Hanukkah,
Let's go beyond the flame and light up the whole world with goodness.
unleash our infinite potential.
Flood the world with love, light, and goodness.
Have your moment.
Have your moment of redemption.
Have your moment
Of redemption now.
Let's have our moment of redemption.
Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed. There's an eclectic group, a lot of different viewpoints, and I am going just to look at some of the questions here. Marianne Ronka says, hello everyone, happy Hanukkah to all. Marianne Cohen, thank you Ann and Steve for being here to help us celebrate. Wishing you happy holidays. And yeah, so thank you all for being here, both for the live in person and for the pre-recorded elements of it. I hope you have a happy Hanukkah. Again, reach out please if you need a Hanukkah kit, a menorah, candles. We'll be happy to accommodate. Rabbi Sruli, RABBISRULI @ nsjewish.com. and we'll make sure to get you one. Thanks again to Steve Mayo and Santos, to my esteemed colleague Rabbi Greg Hirsch.
And a big thank you to you, Rabbi Cerulli. Thank you for organizing this once again this year. A very beautiful Hanukkah celebration, despite being virtual.
You're very welcome. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
Happy Hanukkah.